Details on this. Katie, good morning to you. And the RNLI is putting out...
Yes, good morning from a very, very blustery Blackpool, Charlotte. The Met Office reckons that the gusts here are still around 60, 70 miles per hour, but in the early hours of this morning they peaked at just below 90 in certain parts of Wales and the Isle of Wight. So you can see why the RNLI are concerned about coastal areas, because when those gusts hit you, they really do knock you off your feet. And they're reminding people that 150 people a year die at the coast, most of whom never intended to go into the water, and they're asking people to take a mobile phone with them, be very careful if they're walking along those coastal paths. And of course, if you're travelling today, if you do have to make essential journeys, I can tell you now that driving here this morning wasn't fun at all, because with these gusts are coming some really horrendous blustery showers as well. And you've got to remember that even if you're a very good driver, you're contending with high-sided vehicles and people like a van behind me this morning who can get very, very impatient when we're trying to take care in this weather. Now it really does show us, doesn't it, that spring is not here yet. We had the coldest temperatures in 25 years at the end of February. The bookies have just slashed their odds for wind speeds reaching up to 100 miles an hour by the end of the week, and this March being the wettest on record. Meteorologists are even saying we could have snow in March. So today, all the more reason to stay safe. These weather warnings in place till 3 p.m.
Latest of how it is there. Morning.
Yes, Charlotte, and you can see why there are concerns. If you just take a look at the sea here in Blackpool, it doesn't look particularly inviting, does it? And of course they're worried that if people are walking along piers or along the edge of the sea without barriers like we have here, they could very easily end up in some difficulty. And the RNLI pointing out that 150 people die at the coast every single year, and most of them are not swimming or deliberately entering the ocean. And now here in Blackpool we think wind speeds are around about 50-60 mile an hour still, but they peaked in parts of Wales and the Isle of Wight in the early hours this morning at almost 90 miles an hour, and that yellow warning for wind spans across the whole of England and Wales, and it's in place until 3 o'clock today. There are also concerns about travelling because there are a lot of blustery showers coming with the wind, and I can tell you pretty perilous driving conditions like those that we had coming here to Blackpool this morning. You've got to remember, even if you think you're a good driver, there are high-sided vehicles who are really struggling to contend with that, and people like a van behind me this morning who are getting quite impatient if you're trying to drive slowly. Also, the Severn Bridge is already closed between England and Wales because of the wind speeds. So it's not very pleasant at all today, and we are being reminded that spring is far from here. In fact, forecasters saying we could get snow around Easter time. I'm just going to finish off by guiding you up here to these wind sculptures in Blackpool, almost bent double, pretty much how I feel today. So if there was ever a day to stay home and stay safe, I would say today is that day.
It absolutely is, isn't it, Katie? Well, thanks very much. Stay safe to you with your journey back, and that is quite